Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to Authentic Black Goddess TV. I'm your host, QueenAShakur, and this is the second dose of your Sunday vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. All right, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at QueenAShakur, and you can also follow the QueenAShakur fan page. You can find me on Twitter at DGoddess27. Also, I found that video about Black Lives Matter and all that money they collected. I found that as soon as I logged off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm trying to straighten up my necklace. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just repost that video for those of you who didn't see it. All right, shout out to the Conscious Room, Honey69, Changes, Silent D. Happy birthday again, Silent D. Aeon, Mark Ayers from the UK, One Who Cares, Oyela. All right, shout out to everyone tuned in and everyone in the chat. Let's get into it. Now, a 42-year-old mom from Kansas is accused of joining ISIS and leading a group of women fighters. Say what now? These people are so nefarious. Now, I know these people better not be black. I know none of these crazy people trying to become whole domestic terrorists and global terrorists better not be black, all right? Allison Fluke Ekron was turned over to the FBI on Friday after being taken into custody in Syria. Now, she done made it all the way over there to Syria. Is that what she did? So the 42-year-old woman from Kansas is accused of traveling to Syria to join ISIS, where she went on to lead a battalion of women fighters and plan potential attacks in the U.S. Now, here's the thing that I find so interesting. I want y'all to pay attention. Every time you have these nefarious traitors who want to go over there and join these terrorist organizations that are directly in opposition to the United States, these people are always non-black. Are they not? But I find it so interesting that they love to say that black people are so nefarious and that they always want to just try to find ways to demonize and vilify black people and say, oh, I fear for my lives with those black people with their nefarious, dangerous selves. But they have their own people turning against them, going to the Capitol, starting insurrections, trying to overthrow the whole government, getting mad about mask mandates and taking to the Capitol in Michigan with guns and you name it, making threats to kill the Michigan governor, and traveling abroad to join terrorist organizations that are against the U.S. to hopefully try to start a war with the U.S. themselves. These people are never black people, honey. So they need to miss us with all of the BS when they try to paint us as the demons and villains in the mainstream media, because they know who the real demons are. And that is why they don't want us talking about their nefarious history. Because if we did, if we unveiled it and unraveled it and peeled back the layers of the onion, we would see that they have a history of being domestic and global terrorists. This ain't nothing new, and it ain't their first time at the rodeo. And so when we hear these stories of a woman from Kansas traveling all the way to Syria just so she can lead women fighters and plan attacks on the U.S., the same country that she hailed from, we should not be surprised. This is what they do. Pay attention. So at the end of the day, Allison Fluke Ekron was transferred to FBI custody on Friday after being apprehended in Syria, according to the Department of Justice. Now, as she was taken into custody, authorities unsealed a 2019 criminal complaint in which she was charged with providing support and resources to a terrorist organization. Here's what I'd like for the government here to do. The government of the divided snakes and the FBI and the CIA and everybody else involved, regular law enforcement, you name it. You know what I would love for them to do? I would love for them to take all that energy and smoke that they had when they were trying to bring down the Black Panther Party and bring down people like Fred Hampton, and when they were trying to bring down Huey P. Newton, and Eldridge Cleveland and all of them. Well, I would love for them to take some of that same energy and use that to find out, to seek out, and to arrest and indict and convict these terrorists who are doing these type of things, as well as the terrorists who go around here being whole domestic terrorists, like the video I just showed you on the last live of that guy who threatened to shoot up not only schools, but his workplace as well. Those are the terrorists. Why don't they go and put all that effort into bringing them down? Why not bring down the Ku Klux Klan for a change? I mean, they've existed for over a century, have they not? And clearly murdered innocent people and even children. But what did the Black Panther Party do? Besides try to stop police brutality in their own Black community and protect and defend themselves and their community. So that's the crime. But not blowing up churches, not shooting people, assassinate them in cold blood, not lynching and hanging, cutting off genitalia. None of that's a crime. Not going over to foreign lands to fight against the country that you came from. Please pay attention to the nefariousness of it all. So it goes on to say Fluke Ekren was born in the U.S., where she married and worked as a teacher, according to authorities. Now, in 2004, in an article in Kansas, Lawrence Journal World newspaper includes an interview with her about homeschooling her children. She and her family first moved to Egypt in 2008. Federal prosecutors said in a motion filed Friday and over the next several years that they sometimes traveled back to the U.S., and a 2008 blog post shows the couple and their 4 children visiting the pyramids. They probably wanted to steal the pyramids, honey, like they steal everything else when they go over there and try to claim it for their own. They just couldn't move those pyramids. That's the only thing. Now, in 2011, they moved to Libya. Then in 2012, they were smuggled into Syria. Authorities say that because Fluke Ekren wished to engage in violent jihad was the reason they were smuggled into Syria. Isn't that something? So they brought $15,000 with them, which was used to buy weapons, including handguns, AK-47 assault rifles, and grenades, according to criminal complaints. See, I'm just saying, these people have all this time to do all this. That's because the U.S., they're not looking at these type of people. They're not harassing them. Instead, they're so busy out there in the mainstream trying to paint a picture, a false narrative, and spew propaganda on Black folk. We're the last ones to commit acts of terrorism, just so they know. Anyway, the complaint details the accounts of a government source who briefly lived with Fluke Ekren in ISIS territory. Now, the source told authorities that Fluke Ekren claimed to be working on a plan to attack a college in the U.S. by using a backpack filled with explosives. So what was she going to be, a whole suicide bomber, no less? That plan was approved by the ISIS leader known as Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Fluke Ekren allegedly told the source that her work stopped when she found out she was pregnant. So now she's having a whole baby terrorist. Okay. Instead, she went on to translate speeches by ISIS leaders and also began training women and children to use weapons, including AK-47s and suicide belts. Now, other sources described weapons in her home, and one person even said that they'd seen her 5 or 6-year-old child with a machine gun, honey, ready for the business and the smoke. A 5 or 6-year-old with a machine gun. Just imagine that. Clearly nefarious. Now, by 2016, Fluke Ekren's husband had been killed, and she married an ISIS leader. Another source told authorities she probably killed him for all we know. And then she wanted to marry that ISIS leader so she could have a quicker insight and intel into how she could turn against the U.S. Pay attention. Now, allegedly. Now, she joined what was called the Nusayba Battalion, a group of women married to ISIS fighters who trained themselves to fight. And then she became leader of the group. Several people gave this information to authorities. Now, one source estimated that she had provided military training for more than 100 women and girls. ISIS leaders were proud to have an American instructor. I bet they were. A whole traitor. Of course they were happy. Do you know how stupid people like her make America look? Meanwhile, they're over here harassing Black folk. Pay attention. Now, an unnamed member of Fluke Ekren's family also told authorities that she had wanted to attack a U.S. shopping mall using a car full of explosives in an underground parking garage. The plan didn't go forward because her husband didn't approve. Now, Fluke Ekren stated that she considered any attack that did not kill a large number of people, a number of individuals, to be a waste of resources and time, no less. Now, she is scheduled to appear in court on Monday, and prosecutors noted in their motion that multiple witnesses are prepared to testify against her. If convicted, she could face a minimum or maximum of 20 years in prison. Honey, she should get life for that, if you ask me. Mm, mm, mm. And then someone asked in the comments, they say, how is planning terrorist attacks only a 20-year maximum sentence? Exactly my question. Likely because they know black people are not going to be the ones doing it. If black folks were doing it, the maximum would be a life sentence or a death penalty. I guarantee you. Now, someone else says, how the hell does this happen to someone who isn't born into it? How do you fully choose to do this as an adult? The same way they acted as whole terrorists back when during slavery and Jim Crow, when they were lynching and hanging up black people by trees, lighting them on fire and cutting off genitalia. That's how. That's the kind of people that do this kind of stuff. That's the same type. It's no difference. That's how. Someone says this woman's actions are horrific. Well, so are a lot of actions that have occurred in the United States, or shall I say the divided states. A lot of the actions that have occurred here are horrific. And let me tell you something, honey, whether we talk about CRT in college or in schools, whether we talk about the true history of racism and wannabe supremacy in this country, whether we talk about all the depraved, heinous, egregious things that they've done in this country to black people, at the end of the day, they can hide the truth all they want, try to suppress the truth all they like. But at the end of the day, their true colors will always come out. No one can hide the truth forever. No matter what you do and who you are, your truth of who you are will always come out. And as we see with these mass shootings, when we see these school shootings, when we see people descending upon the Capitol, trying to wreak havoc and just trying to cause a whole insurrection, when we see people just taking up arms and going to foreign lands and turning against their own country of the United States, well, that just goes on to prove the nefariousness of them. At the end of the day, you can hide what you want written in the books. You can change what you want. You can suppress all you like. You can have it banished from any social media platform so no one can speak of it. But at the end of the day, the truth comes out because these devils, they don't change. They don't change. They continue to do these nefarious things. And as I said, the main people that are trying to demonize and vilify, which is black people, we're never the ones that are doing these nefarious things. And that's facts. We are never the ones. So let me move on to the next topic because my next live is starting soon. Now listen to this. Michigan police are accused in a lawsuit. They're accused in a lawsuit of targeting black students in a hazing investigation, but yet they let the white student go free. Is anyone surprised? So they say in 2019, 7 black student football players at Warren De La Salle High School in Warren, Michigan, were charged with misdemeanors in 2020 over a hazing scandal involving other student athletes. Now, the former students of the all-boys Catholic school were accused of holding down younger football players on the locker room floor and striking their bare hind parts and legs with broomsticks. I heard they were doing something else with those broomsticks before on a previous report about this. They're not saying anything about that now. And that's why I'm wondering, why were they only charged with misdemeanors? And I'm not talking about just the black players. I'm talking about all of them collectively. Now, the charges led to several of the athletes losing their football scholarships, and it brought the team's 2019 season to an abrupt end the day before the playoffs. Now, regardless of how you land on the subject of hazing, bullying, or whether the punishment fit the crime in this case, there is one thing we should all be able to agree on. Either none of the students involved should be held accountable, or all of them should be. That's the absolute truth, honey. Don't just punish some of them. Punish all of them and equally. And if you're not going to do that, well, just let them all off the hook. Don't just pick certain ones and give preferential treatment. But of course, that's what they did. So according to the GRIO, one of the black former students has filed a lawsuit alleging that equal opportunity consequences for one's actions didn't happen in this case. 20-year-old Cleveland Harville alleges in his suit that only the black athletes were targeted by Warren police and hit with criminal charges, while investigators went out of their way to protect an elite white varsity player who was, in fact, the main one who took part in the hazing and, in fact, encouraged the other players. Now, they say while black players lost their scholarships behind the scandal, this white player was protected, so he wouldn't lose his athletic scholarship at Big Ten University, according to the lawsuit. And that's what they do. You see, white people are never going to get the same circumstances as you. So let me just tell all the Negroes out there listening. Let me say this. You see, The white guy, the elite white guy they're talking about, he was the one who was the main one doing this, they say. Some say he initiated the whole thing and talked the others into following. He was the leader of the pack, but he's the only one that didn't get in trouble. So black people, when you're sitting out here, first of all, black people, what are you doing out here? These black football players, what were they doing out there? Beating somebody with broomsticks on their behinds. That's not what black folk do. And at the end of the day, if you're black and you're sitting up there allowing someone that's on the direct opposite team from us, and we all know who those people are, right? The Mazungas. So if you sitting up here allowing them to talk you into doing something criminal, something nefarious, you can rest assured that you will get caught, and they will too, and likely, but they're not going to get any punishment. And 9 times out of 10, they may just be setting you up. They may be talking you into it just so you can lose your scholarships and get in big trouble, because they already know they're going to be protected. And so when black people allow white folk to tell them to do something nefarious that could mess them up, they're sitting up here throwing rocks at the penitentiary and doing all this foolishness. That's just so stupid. The cooning needs to stop. And for the parents who have these type of children and you haven't talked to them about racism and a whole system of wannabe white supremacy and how some of these people are smiling in your face while they're stabbing you in the back, at the end of the day, they'll sit there and pretend to be your friends just so they can have a front row seat at your demise. If you're not teaching your black children about this, I don't know what to tell you. Because everyone black should be having this conversation with their black children. Therefore, your black children will stop going off by themselves with the devil and turning up dead. All right, there's numerous stories I've reported, but let me continue. So the charges against the black players were dropped in 2020. Oh, hold on. Let me read this first, this last line. It says, now they protected the white player so he didn't lose his scholarship to Big Ten University, adding that he was never investigated or even charged with a crime, and that he went on to play football at Ohio State University, honey. You see how that worked out? He started this whole mess, right? And then got them to participate like fools they followed, trying to be down with wannabe supremacy. And now he's off playing football, honey, at Ohio State University, while they're sitting here and lost their scholarships. The main ones who need it. So anyway, the charges against the black players were dropped in 2020, but only after they agreed to participate in an anti-bullying program and wrote apology letters to the victims. Suffice to say that the white athlete had to do none of the above, if what the lawsuit says is true. Now they say, the more I research this, the more I'm appalled at the blatant and overt use of power to hurt black children. This is what Attorney Todd Perkins said to the Free Press. He said, and it is specifically pointed to black children because they are the only ones charged. It continues to hurt. It continues to pain, and it continues to anger me. The lawsuit also alleges that an independent investigation into the case was done and the findings didn't match up with that of the police investigation. I'm sure it didn't. They said independent third-party investigation found no player at fault and suggested the actions taken against the black and brown players had racial implications and undertones. Now, the police only investigated and charged the black and brown players, not similarly situated white players. Had Cleveland been white, he would not have been investigated, charged with a crime, arrested, or even detained. Well, we all know that. I mean, you saw the video footage that I showed you yesterday of the white man shooting those 2 cops. I mean, they gave him every opportunity, afforded him all types of excuses, called him by name, asked him nicely, counted down, and all of that. And he still didn't comply. And then, instead of shooting him, they foolishly gave him the opportunity to shoot and kill them. That's not what they afford black people. So if we see they do that in traffic stops, or when the police are apprehending black people, we see the difference in how they treat black people. Then, of course, we know that in the criminal justice system, which is run by criminals, as far as I'm concerned, we know they're not going to give black people the same punishment as white folk. White people get a slap on the wrist, and black people will always get the maximum, unless they take a plea deal, but they're still going to get more than their white counterparts. So they go on to say that, of course, Warren Police Commissioner Bill Dwight denies that racism played a part in the investigation. Of course, he's going to deny it. Isn't that what they always say? It doesn't have anything to do with race, when in fact it has everything to do with race. Please miss us with it. So he says, I adamantly deny that we were racist in this investigation. Honey, the police are racist in most investigations, all right? Please. Everyone was treated fairly. Ha! That's a joke. When are Black people ever in their lives treated fairly by the police? Miss me with it. They say, we conducted a very thorough investigation. Yeah, into the Black and brown students you did. We looked at everyone we had information on, except the white person, I'm sure. We presented our findings to the St. Clair County prosecutor, and that's what it was. Of course it was, because the prosecutor is likely just as racist and biased as the police who investigated the crime. So miss me with all of it. But anyway, that's what the devils have done, okay? Terry said 2 different systems, one for whites and one for us. Absolutely. I mean, when they say a jury of your peers, no Black person ever in the history of the United States, I'm sure, has had an all-Black jury. But they've definitely had all white ones, have they not? And what you're never going to see, and I'm sure you've never seen in the history of the United States, is a white person who's the defendant with an all-Black jury. But they've also had all white juries. Pay attention. So with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. Please like and share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. I'm going to go live now on the original QueenAShakur channel. Actually, I have 2 lives that I'm going to do back to back on there. So I hope to see you on the next chat starting right now as soon as I close out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next chats. Peace.